Hello, my name is Jamie Tomey, and I am pleased to welcome you to the second in our series, Evanston Bound, an Artist Talk and Quarantine, brought to you by Artist Book House. When the coronavirus hit and made it impossible for us to visit book artists, letterpress printers, paper makers, writers, and other bookish people, we decided to bring them to you virtually via a Zoom quarantine. Our second in the series is with Shawn Sheehy. On April 23rd, we visited him in his Chicago studio space. Shawn is a pop-up artist and author, and his work is an absolute delight. We hope you enjoy this video. Shawn Sheehy, welcome. How are you today?
Hey, I'm not bad. I had the opportunity yesterday to kind of work my way through my first online video that's gonna kind of like go up and generate revenue, allegedly.
Okay.
So I had an opportunity to kind of do this in the best way one can. So I'm ready.
All right. Where is that video held? What were you doing?
Oh, it is going to be released through the Pocosin Art and Craft Center. I'm not sure about the craft. It may just be Art Center. It's Columbia, North Carolina. I was supposed to go there next month to do a couple of workshops, 2 workshops, and we're not doing that. So instead, they're gonna post a video, and actually some visuals might be good. I'll be right back.
Oh, okay. So we're getting a view of Shawn's studio space as he leaves the camera.
Just look at behind my body.
Your curtain.
So they want a video that they're gonna post the day before Mother's Day, and it's a beautiful opportunity for me to think about things in a different way.
Okay.
And isn't that what this is all about?
Yeah.
So, I've been making pop-ups for a long time, and I got expectations. And they said, we want you to make a video. We want it to be really accessible. So I made this thing, and they said, no, we mean like really accessible. Okay. So everything that you use needs to be everyday objects.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Okay. So, we have these fancy things like micro spatulas. That doesn't show very well on a camera, but it's a tiny little piece of metal. We've got these fancy things like a bone folder. They're like, no. Things you've got at home.
Okay.
So the only tools.
The normal book artist doesn't, or the normal person who is not an obsessive book artist doesn't have right now, because they can't go out and get things, right?
Right.
Okay.
Or they don't want to lay that expectation on it. You're just going to have this 20-minute experience. You don't need to buy $100 of tools to do it.
Right.
Or you shouldn't have to. So right. Scissors and pencil. That's all the tools you need.
Okay.
And then we made this butterfly.
Oh, that's so great.
If I flip it around, you can see is actually a granola box.
Awesome.
And the butterfly wings, if I kind of do this and put that obnoxiously close to the lens, you might be able to see as a butter box.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then, there's just piles of scrap paper just laying around all over the place anyway. So cut up a little scrap and decorate it.
Make some art.
So
let's actually back up a minute. We have a few more people who just joined us. Welcome to the Artist Book House, second in our series, Evanston Bound, where we talk with various book artists and writers and letterpress printers. And hopefully we're going to talk to a lot of people around the country. And the idea of Evanston Bound being that people are coming to Evanston, because that's where we are, or that's where I am. And also books are bound. So that's the play on that title. But let me ask you real quick, Shawn, What is your background? Some people in the audience might not know who you are. So
All right.
what's your scoop with the book arts world?
Scoop in the book arts. So I studied elementary education right out of high school, and so I have a strong teaching background, and I'm glad because I use it every day. And then I went back to school. Not a COVID cough, that's an allergy cough. And studied graphic design, which was great. Picked up a lot of hand skills. And at the end of my graphic design program, I made a pop-up book just randomly as a design solution for a problem. And it was really satisfying, and it was well received, and kind of revealed to me that there's a larger world of people that make handmade books. And I found out at that very same time about the new launch of the Center for, or the MFA program in Book and Paper Arts at Columbia College in Chicago, which is how Jamie and I know each other, because we both went to school there. Jamie was in the first cohort of that program.
Yeah.
And I was in the second cohort of that program.
Yeah.
So then I just started making books, and I always kind of knew that the paper engineering part of it was really interesting and important part of it. So learning how to make a book properly, graduate school, was super fun and super useful, and then applying that to a paper engineered project led to my making artist books that have paper engineering and won't fall apart next week.
Right. So your first published, what would it be called then? Not your artist book out of handmade.
Trade book.
Trade book. Your first trade book was my favorite, Welcome to the Neighborhood. Am I right about that? That was the first one that you worked on, that you wrote and produced yourself, and then had it published, but you've worked on other people's books to make the pop-ups for other trade publications. But that was your very first one. Can you tell us a little bit about that process in making that and what the idea came from? Because it kind of, all of your projects have a through line, right? Can you talk about the through line of nature and?
Right.
Yeah, go ahead.
So we've got this word, bestiary, a book of animals. Mm-hmm. And we can also use the word herbiary, which is a book of plants. So basically all my books are either bestiaries or herbiaries, or some sort of, combination of the two. And I like to make books, and I like to develop an idea that makes sense, that a book is the way that you talk about that idea, as opposed to making a movie or making a print or whatever. Mm-hmm. But I'm not really a narrative writer, and I don't really have ideas for that or interest for that. So the idea of making a book project that makes sense if it doesn't have a story that has a beginning and a middle and the end, means that you're going to take some different kinds of approaches. And for me, I kind of take this sort of collection approach. So you've got this grouping of things, and then you can talk about the grouping of things and the relationships between the grouping of things. And with Neighborhood, all of the creatures from that book all come from the same ecosystem. And I talk pretty deeply about the interrelationships between the creatures of the book. So that's where it kind of all, holds together as a unit. Should I pull that out, Jamie? We can
pull it out and show some people who haven't seen it that have joined our session here today. Your allergy call.
So I've got this mad setup here. If I do a rotate and I do a switch view.
Oh, yay.
That's mostly working. If I do a little bit more of that. That's not bad, right?
That's not bad. It's kind of sideways, but that's okay.
Oh. That's much less sideways.
That's less sideways. Okay, so welcome to the neighborhood. You want to we don't have to read it, but maybe show a couple of the spreads, because we have some more things to show and walk you through and talk about.
There's a strange camera dyslexia, I think, that also makes it even hard to say the word. There we go. All right. Yeah, so a super quick turn through without reading anything.
Yeah, that's great.
Within view of the camera. And so this idea, it existed originally as an artist book. We talk about that thing, artist books versus trade books. This trade book that I'm holding in my hands, which you can order on Amazon or at your independent bookseller at any time.
Bookshop.org. Bookshop.org.
Thank you. Indie Bound. The trade book version, like I'm holding, it got produced in East Asia, Southeast Asia. It's all commercially made materials. A very large team of people were required to put this together after I developed content for it. But the artist book version of it is just completely produced by me, and I made the paper and did all the assembly. I had some help with cutting here and there from some other folks, but it was an easy transition to go from, it was easy to make this project happen because it basically already existed.
Right. As an artist.
The publisher contacted me and they said, we want to do this thing. And I'm like, great, it's easy. It's all ready to go.
Yeah.
Let's make it happen.
And so your second book, let's go back to Shawn as our viewer. It looks like somebody else. Nancy Fiegel, can you turn your thing, mute your, there you go. There we go.
Mute thyself.
There you go. Now Shawn's our speaker, so we can see your lovely face. Okay, so what was the next project that you worked on after Neighborwood? And was it an artist book, or did you go directly with your publisher and agent to do a trade publication next?
Yeah, same. I had developed a project called Beyond the Sixth Extinction, and it exists as an artist book. It existed as an artist book like in 2007, I think. It's the publication date for that officially. And again, developed the writing and the paper engineering and the design, and then I made paper and I did the printing for myself on that one too. Had some cutting and assembly help. Thanks, Sarah Vogel. And made 15 devastatingly laborious copies of that book. And just to provide a tiny little bit of raw context, that was an artist book project, and of course, because it's an artist book, it exists in the gallery world basically, rather than the bookstore world.
Right.
And so those books, it was like a $6,000 book.
Yes,
That's
if somebody wanted to purchase that one, because it's handmade paper, hand printed, hand cut, it would be $6,000. Right.
And multiply that over 15 copies, it's a nice chunk of change. But dividing that over the number of years that I did it, it's slightly less than poverty wages.
Right, right.
Basically.
Artists don't make very much. Right. So
sometimes it can look big.
Yeah. And then what next? What was the next project for you after that one?
Artist book, my next artist book project.
Yeah.
So finishing up that book, it's also the time where another link that Jamie and I share, we both were part of a collective that ran a gallery in Pilsen here in Chicago called West Beam for about 8 years. And when I moved out of our Vespine space. I moved into the house where I am now, and basically took a hard pivot on the, oh, look, I just saw Emily Harrington's name float up there.
Yeah, she's correcting my saying it was beyond the 6th extension, which is what my computer corrected on from extinction to extension, which might be a funny
I think it is funny.
Title. Anyway, go ahead. You also have a question on the chat after you finished your thought.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So I kind of took a hard pivot in terms of production. That partly was a response to living in a little bit of a different place. It was a response to the center at Columbia being a little harder to use. The studios at Columbia being harder to use. And also moving into a place that had a yard, and I started to kind of seriously invest in gardening.
Yeah.
And learning a lot about how gardening works. And so the next 3 books that I made, frog in the throat, are pure herbiaries. They're pure plant books. And a lot is similar to the earlier books, but they're not made out of handmade paper, which was disappointing, but fine. And they're smaller, and they're a little faster, and I made larger editions of those. And they essentially kind of look at some of the folklore of plants as the thing that holds them together. The first one is about the language of flowers, and the second one is about vegetable medicine, vegetable herbals. And then the third one is about plants of the holiday times. So, you know, think winter holidays, holly and mistletoe and things like that. But it's sort of taking that old folklore and kind of bringing it into the 21st century and freshening it up and maybe sort of making fun of it a little bit. Quick example, it's the best spicy one from the Winter Holidays book. Include mistletoe, like I mentioned, and we're not exactly sure of the origin of the name mistletoe, but because mistletoe is a parasite, and it needs to sprout up in the crown of a tree in order to thrive. The seeds need to stay, they can't fall down to the ground. And of course, they're one of those seeds that like to pass through the digestive system of some other creature to help them germinate. And mistletoe berries are very sticky. That helps them stick up in a tree rather than fall to the ground. And so imagine a bird that's eaten a very sticky seed, and the stickiness doesn't go away. And then all of a sudden you've got a bird that's leaving deposits in a tree that's also very sticky. And so there's a belief that mistletoe means literally poop on a stick. And I think that's funny. And I think it's funny that that's the plant that we're supposed to kiss under.
Yeah, poop on a stick. That is funny.
Poop on a stick plant.
Okay, so we're going to go back to this question from Juan in Oregon. Thank you for coming to Evanston for our Evanston Bound panel, virtual Evanston at least. So the question is, how are the pop-ups made and assembled in the printing process? And Juan, can you clarify whether or not you mean Shawn's individual artist books made of handmade paper, or are you talking about the printing process in a trade publication? So Juan, can you clarify that question a little bit in your thing? You can go ahead and unmute if you'd like to, Juan, and ask it to unmute your microphone. Is he still here? I don't know. Okay, we'll move on, and if he clarifies his question in the chat, that would be great. So, okay, so Shawn, what are you working on right now? And how has your work changed, or your process changed, or has it changed since you work from home, and your studio is in your house? How has it changed since you have been sheltering in place?
So the biggest change has been the fact that I spend a lot of my life and my work teaching workshops.
Okay.
I go all over the place all the time. Like last year, I was out of town twice a month, all year long, teaching workshops. And frequently it's going someplace like, I teach a workshop in New York City every summer at the Center for the Book in New York. And often it's a weekend, a Saturday, Sunday, 12 to 14 hours. And we develop a whole collection. So I'm going to take another moment and walk over and grab a visual here.
Okay, so let me recall out to Juan in Oregon. Juan, are you there? I saw his name is still on our participants list, so hopefully he'll clarify his question.
I also could, I could talk about the print production of a trade book too.
Sure.
But let me circle back around to that.
We see the top of Shawn's head.
Top of my head.
Okay, let's see.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah.
Am I facing in a happy way for you?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay. And this is going to be super awkward to see in a small space, but that's okay. We'll have fun with it. So, we have a very traditional way to bind a book. This, where you turn pages through a book, even though pop-up bindings are sort of fundamentally different from the binding of a non-pop-up book, but that's a topic for another podcast. For this project, I wanted to have something that was a really unconventional binding approach. So when you pick it up, it's a box rather than something that looks like a traditional book. And the box is a wrap that unwraps. And then we basically have folios on the interior that are kind of wrapped like a snail, like a wrapped snail, I don't know, on themselves. And there are 15 of them. And of course, you can't see what's on the inside because as it unwraps, those individual folios are closed, but I could keep doing that for 15 times. And the content of this addresses a problem that I have in teaching workshops all the time, which is, hi, Shawn, you make pop-up books and you know all of these fundamental structures, kind of like if you grab a basic cookbook to make a basic bread, we've got a method that's time-honored and trusted. And so we have fundamental structures that are similar to that. But then you say, I don't want this just to be a basic yeast bread. I want it to be, raisin, maple, twisted, piled high bread. So then you have to improvise and you have to make it your own. And taking the jump between fundamental thing and made your own thing is hard. It's the hardest thing to take a class and then actually start making your own thing. So this class is meant to address that, where we've got all three on there, yes. The first structure is one of these fundamental things. So there's not really anything interesting to see there. It's just a single piece of paper and it's got 6 folds in it. And when you open and close, you've got a triangle top and bottom that collapses together. But I can add some things to that structure. It's the same thing that's underneath it. But if I add pieces to it, now it starts to do something interesting.
So the first pop-up structure there is the base of the second, basically.
Yeah. And then with the third of this 3, I am rebuilding that initial fundamental structure, sort of reshaping it entirely to take it in a totally different direction. So you can see those 6 folds are right here where the wings come together. Mm-hmm. So the mechanics of it, there we go, are exactly the same. I'm just basically taking this and adding stuff to it and reshaping it and making it all out of one sheet and engineering it and making it, making it my own thing. So that happens 5 times in this whole book. There's 5 sets of 3 where I take an initial thing and it becomes a later thing. I won't do all of them because we got things to do, but my favorite in this book, I believe, is the squirrel. So I'm going to shuffle down to the squirrel super quick. Here's the squirrel. So fundamental structure. This one's a little more complicated. It's to the back of the book. This is the second day of this workshop, so we're getting to trickier things. And then I put a squirrel on it. So the internals are, again, exactly the same, but now it's just got a head and some paws and a belly.
It becomes its animal. That is great.
Leah
animal. Is asked if you can shift your camera a little bit lower to the side so we can see the 3D and the connecting folds after you show these 3 folds. Maybe show the rest of the squirrel piece and then move your camera so we can see some of the connecting fold things. Does that make sense to you, Shawn?
Sure.
Okay.
So, all right. So also I can just lift this up in the air a little bit too.
Yeah, that works perfectly too.
Right. So there's the initial, there's the foundational.
This is the squirrel one.
For the squirrel, yeah.
How many pieces of paper is the purple? 4, 6?
2.
2?
All of this all kind of wraps and tucks and
okay, so that middle
folds.
piece is a double. That's double right there.
Yeah, the middle piece is doubled.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the piece across the front is the second piece.
Okay, yeah. That is super cool. Okay, let's see the squirrel again.
So then with squirrel, same. The box that's in the center of the squirrel is just a single piece. And then the belly glues on, and the hind legs glue down, and the front legs on the top, and the tail in the back, and the head on the top. And you get pretty quickly things get, they adopt some character. They take on character with easy details. Putting 2 layers of the face and cutting an eye out of there makes it cute and fun right away. And then the number 3 for that set is this bird, where that interior box thing is, you lose the sense of that because it's now in bird shape, but you can see the interior that kind of has those 2 cells sort of in the center is the same. And I also took the lift part and made that part of the folio on this one. It's cut from the same piece as the base. So that's just more sort of adapting and shaping. So my hope my plan is to use this as a workshop model set for a new workshop that I'm going to launch this summer. That's going to be at this point, online only. So commercial. If you're interested in taking this as a workshop, go to my website, shawnsheehy.com, and throw your email address at me, and I'll let you know when things are going down. Jamie, you just went. There you go.
I know. I was trying to talk and ask a question or say something. Your website, I'm going to put in the chat. Have you already put that up on there? Let me figure out how to switch here to everyone. Let me do this. So ShawnSheehy.com. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And then they can find that workshop on there, or is it something that is a different place?
Folks right now can simply send me their email addresses.
Okay.
I see that they're doing that in the chat function as well, which is totally fine. because nothing is posted or advertised. It does not exist as a workshop yet.
Okay.
That
So you're still going through that process to create those online workshops.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this is a weird time right now. So everything is shifting. So we're all trying to shift things.
Right.
So do you want to real quick, it's 12:32. We have another half an hour of our chat here. So do you want to talk about how maybe your work has changed since you're sheltering at home?
Yeah. Camera flip. It's been kind of an interesting shift for me over the past couple of years anyway. I published my last artist book in 2018, that winter holiday one. Mm-hmm. And that's also the year that the trade edition of Beyond the Sixth Extinction came out. It was a very big year. And in the final year of making the winter book, I just basically was sitting here assembling books and listening to audible books while I'm doing it. So my brain isn't really engaged in a big way. It's just cut, paste, cut, paste, cut, paste for a year. Right. So 3 years ago, I started thinking about what the next project was going to be, and I'm feeling a lot of consternation about that, because I want the new thing to feel new and interesting. I want it to feel like it's something that I made and it's recognizable as a me thing. Sure. Oh yeah, that's another Shawn Sheehy book. That makes perfect sense. But I also want it to feel a little surprising and a little fresh. So I'm trying to find a new take for that. I would like to challenge myself to actually write a narrative. I do not know if I have that muscle. I've been working on it, but I haven't found it yet. But I'm working on it. So what's probably going to happen is that the next thing is going to be very similar to the previous things in terms of, here's a collection of creatures that live in a space, and here's relationships that are interesting to explore. And the Welcome to the Neighborhood was sort of vast in the community of creatures that inhabited it. And Beyond the Sixth Extinction was much narrower. It takes place essentially in the future of Chicago. I want the next book to be in the vacant lot next door to my house. I want it to be that narrow, that limited. But there's a lot that's going on over there. There's a neighbor boy, his mom takes him over there to explore all the time, and he calls it the snake place because there's a lot of snakes that live over there, as my dad shivers at and knows also. So that, and also an interesting, given our times, and this kind of comes more directly to your question. For a long time, I've been wanting to make a book that says we would do better on this planet if there were less of us. I don't want genocide, but I think we should think really seriously about, as a species, how much we exert ourselves on the system. Right. And the system is famous for finding its own balance. If you've got too many rabbits, then here come the coyotes. Right. And you don't have too many rabbits anymore. Recalibration of sorts. Recalibration. Yeah. And there are lots of times, and I'm not saying that there's any way that the universe is thinking about this and making decisions about this. It just happens. You've got another population that's kind of run amok, and all of a sudden, here comes a virus, and there's a population control, and things sink back into balance. And the Earth is very old, and we've had many rounds of burgeoning speciation and diminishing speciation. So that balancing mechanic kind of comes and goes clearly. But
I would like to make a book that kind of makes that point. You know, let's think about human impact on the world and how we can manage that a little bit better without making a book that says to the reader, I wish you weren't here, because that's the wrong message.
Because that's not
the wrong message.
Welcoming your readers in any way.
Right.
So
I want this next project to be kind of an animals fight back.
Yeah.
Book.
Sort of what's happening in the canals and everything, the coyote going through Chicago, Michigan Avenue. Yeah. I love that.
Except right here in the vacant lot.
The snake lot. The snake pit.
The snake lot. Let's go take a look at that super quick.
Oh, we're now watching Shawn's iPad. Your camera went away.
Yes, it did.
As you walk us through to your thing. So we've got Shawn's iPad up. Next week, I'm really excited. Can I do a quick promotional thing real quick?
Yeah.
Next week, I'm really excited to have Evanston artist and teaching artist Alice George with us at noon on Thursday. And she's really, she's a kind of an interdisciplinary artist. She's a poet and a writer, as well as a book artist and visual artist, painter, animation, film sort of thing. Okay, so now we're looking at Shawn's.
That sounds really good.
Vacant.
And for everyone who remembers that I had to stay at home last Thanksgiving because the tree fell down and took the power out. There in the center, you can sort of see that crush of limbs that is still on the ground. How many months later? That's the tree that fell. So there's my vacant lot.
That's your ecosystem. That's gonna be your next impetus for your next book. That's awesome.
Yeah. And I want to go ahead, Jamie.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
So, and I'll bring out that model.
Well, first, can you answer Juan's question about the trade publications? He did clarify that he was talking about the trade publications pop-up process. So the question, let me go back to that original question here on the thing. He says that they have Welcome to the Neighborhood, and his question is related to the pop-ups on how those are made and assembled in the printing process for trade publication.
Okay.
So when your book actually goes to the publisher and is being produced, how does that process happen for the actual? Because in your artist books, you have you hand assemble everything, and you have people helping you. Thank you, Sarah, helping you cut things and assemble things. So how does it work in the trade publication? What's your understanding of that?
Right.
Ooh.
Look at that.
Okay, so there we go. That's perfect.
Are we going the right way? Okay, yeah. All right, I'll show you this, and then we'll do print production 101 for a pop-up book.
And then you can do a quick demo of things people can work on.
And then we'll do a quick demo.
Okay.
Yeah.
We might go slightly over time if people have to leave the conversation. That's fine. We might go slightly over time. We are recording, and we're going to post this on the Artist Bookhouse YouTube and possibly on the Artist Bookhouse website as soon as I figure out iMovie.
Sweet. That's easy.
Okay.
So it's turning into creatures who are weaponizing. And I want this to feel very mechanical, like this sort of intersection of a pop-up book and a puppet, where there's very mechanical, moving things going on. So we've got this single folio here, and this is rough. This is a whitey tighty. It's white and it's tight, but there's no color, but the mechanics are all pretty good. And so we open it, and we have this dimensional view on a pop-up praying mantis. And that's just all there is to that right now. But if you open on this side, we get a little bit of a opening of the wing of the mantis. So it kind of goes into attack mode. And there's a little leg that kicks in the back there. Jamie, you went silent.
Sorry. Can you show us the underside or the side view of that as well? Like flip it so that we're looking, there we go. That is so cool.
And then on the head side, when I open this, you've got the head turning.
Whoa.
You've got one of the front legs bringing what you don't know, but I will tell you, is a burr from a burdock plant up close to its face. Because, you know, they're the ones that kind of stick on your clothes as you walk through the weeds.
Oh,
and I'm thinking
wow.
about this idea of the mantis sort of deploying them as weapons.
Can you show us the underside of that as well, or the side view of that? And can you, why is this folded over? Because there's mechanical things happening under that fold as well?
This flap that I'm opening,
yeah,
is pulling on these two straps. And when this strap pulls, it makes the head turn. And when this strap pulls, it makes all of this turn. The arm is actually passive. The arm is responding to this piece moving, which is being pulled down here.
So the underneath part has some things happening where I can see those slits. That's where the channel is that it's pulling that. Wow. How long does it take you to figure these things out?
Ooh, okay. All right, so I don't do this, I don't do this every day. Papa's got a busy life. But I started working out some of these problems when I was on a residency in August last year.
Mm-hmm.
And I applied these mechanics to a different kind of idea. I'm going to circle back to this again. And I started applying them to this mantis maybe 2 months ago. And then when we knew that we were going to do this, I spent a lot of time this past week kind of pulling it together a little better. Okay. So it's a lot. It's a lot. Yeah. Okay, print production, super quick.
Okay.
So here's a book that was produced commercially. It's all machine printed, which is the same way that printing happens for all commercial printing. Most of it, not all of it. Offset lithography. You have 4 big rolls of ink, CMYK, big sheets of paper rolling through there. All the images get printed down. The images come from artwork that I produce and send to them. And in this case, all of the artwork is handmade paper that I made and colored and then cut and collaged together to make an image. So basically this all exists right now as a handmade paper collage, getting dusty back in the closet over there. And then I just send them a big board that has this artwork on it, and they scan it, and then they use that scan to print. And it's the same for everything all the way through, except that all of those individual pieces are mounted on a board and get scanned, and then the scan provides the image for the printing. So machine printed, and then they make dies, which are big cookie cutters for paper. And the dies exist on sheets that are, big, many inches in either direction. So they can cut lots of pieces out from a large piece of paper at once. Then, once you've got that whole big stack of cutout pieces, then it's time for the people to enter into the equation in a very real way, because you can't assemble a pop-up book by machine, by robot. It's too idiosyncratic. So they basically, there are whole barns of people that are mostly women, because that's the economics of the places where these books are made. And women, for the most part, have smaller fingers. And they're a little more dexterous, and they can put things together a little more easily.
So they're folding and putting and combining and then creating the actual book.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. We have another question in the chat from Alice Bailey. Do you have an eventual home for your processed materials and archive? And I have an urge for that to be Artist Bookhouse eventually, but you can say that it could be in the archives of Artist Bookhouse or whatever, but that's my nudge for Artist Bookhouse to eventually have those archives of Shawn Sheehy books. So
I'm feeling that nudge. I will say to you that my archives all still exist here.
In your
like
closet.
I said, I've got a big closet, where we are not going to go. That's not a safe place, but it's a good place. I've had two offers.
Okay.
From two different universities to buy my archives.
Well, yes.
And the buy part is very nice.
It's very crucial.
Crucial. But because I'm a teaching artist, I use a lot of process materials to teach folks all the time. So I need to keep those things in my hands right now.
Yeah.
Maybe in 15 years, 20 years, I'll be ready to cash in.
Yeah, absolutely. And they will be those universities will be way more willing to pay way more money for Shawn Sheehy archives. I should think. So
or less if I do nothing for the next 20 years, who knows?
Do you want to move to our last bit of time to do a
Let's do it.
Demo? And is this something that people could do on their own at home during this time? What do people need now?
Oh, that would no.
No.
That would have been a nice idea. Next time, Jamie, next time.
Next time we'll have a demo session. Maybe we'll add that for our Tuesday Evanston Bound demo sessions or something. Okay, so what are we looking at?
Here is a solution for that. Because I have specially selected this project because I have already created this as a project that you can access and buy online at, let's put this in the chat too, please, makepopupcards.com. And it'll cost you $1 hot. And it's a PDF pattern that you can download and you can print onto whatever stock you may have handy at home. Or if you want to be fancy, you can go online and buy some nice colors of 80-pound cover, about 215 GSM. That's what I'm working with here today. I have a vast stock of it over there in the shelves, so I can grab it pretty easily whenever I want. Yeah, and you can make this. All of the directions are typed out, and there are lots of images, and it's super easy. What's also kind of fun about this project is that I developed it originally a while back because I was asked to do a demo at a conference, a hands-on demo where everyone was going to participate. And it was a conference of 100 people. And rather than putting tools and glue in front of 100 different people at the conference, I basically developed this to be a tool-free workshop and also a glue-free project, rather, not workshop, and a glue-free project. So basically, I just handed everyone pre-cut pieces and then talked them through assembly. Those pre-cut pieces had, I just lost our word for this. It had a punched dashed line on all the places where folds were supposed to happen. Why can I not think of what word I want to use? I don't know, doesn't matter.
Like a pattern? Pattern lines or something?
So like perf line.
Perf lines, okay.
So
quickly, there's a question on here. Yeah. Ken just mentioned perforated. And there's a question on here from Andrew who says, did you cut to make the fold? Just now with your X-Acto on that, did you just slice? Andrew's
making a joke.
Okay.
And yes. There's a Andrew is a professional bookbinder and conservator, and I kind of blew up the bookbinding world a couple of years ago when I did a demo at a standards conference, and I did this technique of knife scoring, which I do all the time. Works great. But usually, you're supposed to score with a blunt-ended instrument so you don't reduce the integrity of the sheet, and I don't care. So
integrity doesn't matter for you as far as paper goes.
Doesn't matter.
Is what you're saying.
So that's what I'm doing right now. I am scoring with my X-Acto knife. And these pattern pieces that I'm bringing out right now show you how in the patterns that I develop, all of the scoring is kind of mapped out. The dashed lines that are broader and longer are for mountain folds.
Can you pull those up? Yeah, can you pull those up closer to the camera so people can see? Thank you. So the longer dashes signify the mountain, which is the peak, and the smaller dashes signify the valley folds.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And the valley is where it goes down like a V.
Like a V. Like a V. And
that's all outlined in the pattern plan on the website.
And that is all, yeah. The patterns that you would download look exactly like, because that's actually where these patterns came from that I'm using right here. Mountain, 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 valley, valley on the back. So I'm flipping the piece. This gets kind of tricky sometimes. When you score with a knife, and this is very technical for our book set or book group, when you score with a knife, you always get the best sort of aesthetic on that fold if you are scoring on the peak of the fold. So
on the mountainside.
On the mountainside. But I get myself into trouble when I say mountainside, because then people say, well, what does that mean if you're folding a valley fold, but you're scoring on the mountainside? That gets crazy.
Yeah.
So I say I score on the peak. Yeah. All right. Did I do all of them? Did I do all of them? Did I do all of them? No. These two here. So yeah, I flip it back and forth just for tidier, cleaner folds. Cleaner folds. All right, so they're scored, and now I can just kind of work around the figure and do some breaking of the folds.
So if people don't actually have an X-Acto at their house, but they do have, say, a tongue depressor or a bone folder, they would score on the valley side, or would they score on the mountain side with the bone folder?
Technically, if you're using a blunt instrument, you score on the valley side, the fold side, right?
Okay.
Yeah, there's no clean language.
Can you? We're not under the camera right now. You're there.
Thank you.
Go. Okay. Can you redo those folds for us and show us?
Right.
Sorry.
Yesterday, I put a big note next to my work area saying, keep your work under the camera, please.
We have a question in the chat. Are the cut openings done by hand?
Okay, so the cut openings are done by hand. And indeed, that's where you're going to have trouble if you're cutting with scissors. So, if you've got a craft knife or a box cutter, those cuts are going to be so much easier than trying to make that happen with scissors. But if scissors are what you have, scissors are what you do.
Yeah. So, okay, so that little pink guy, can you hold it up again? Because I kind of interrupted your folding with the thing. So can you walk us through and talk us through that?
So after scoring, everything was still very flat. Because it's sort of a complicated piece and it's got a lot of folds running in different directions, especially like the center fold that changes twice during its run, it kind of makes it easier to just kind of work around and do a little pinch, 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 pinch as you're going, just to get all those folds started. And then when they're all started, do a total collapse. And this is what the final collapse position of this figure is going to look like when it's tucked into the card.
So cool. Okay, and then what was the next one that you had?
Then here's my last piece, which needs a score down the center and 2 little valleys out to the side. Am I under? Barely.
It's a tricky life right now.
I enjoy teaching with a document camera. I have to say, I like it when places have a document camera. You can
Okay,
teach more people.
Move up a little. There you go. Thank you.
You can have more people sitting in a group. You know, if you have a document camera set up like I've got right now, and you know, basically you're projecting it onto a giant screen, so you can have 100 people sitting in a room and following these directions. Whereas usually I have 10 people sitting in a room, and they're all close as I can get them to my fingers so they can see the tiny folds I'm making.
You're like a cooking chef show.
It's like a cooking chef show with no risk of burning anything. All right, so my 3 pieces are ready. I'm ready to do some assembly. A quick note about this piece before it gets hidden behind the green piece. Having a combination of V's that nest one on top of the other makes 2 interesting things happen. The first thing is that the head telescopes, the top telescopes down into the bottom, or in this case, the head telescopes down into the body. So it kind of collapses, which means that you can close it into a smaller folio space. And then when you open it, it expands big and out of that space, which is fun. It's just nice.
And just a note for those of you who aren't necessarily book artists, a folio is a single sheet folded in half.
Yeah, a card.
A card, right.
Then these 2 center sections experience 90 degrees of rotation when it opens and closes. So kind of a simple-ish combination of folds, but it makes lots of areas of interesting things happening in space that we can exploit. I've got 2 rounded tabs down here at the bottom. I'm just going to push those over for a quick sec. I didn't score these because in the model, I'm going to fold these tab ends over, and they're going to slip through a slot in the card, and then they're going to live their lives opened out. And I want them not to feel like they need to live their lives not opened out, which is what would happen if I scored them first. So no score. Tuck these into the slot, open them out on the back. I'll do that on the other side. Tab and slot construction, beyond the fact that it doesn't need glue, also makes it really easy in a workshop setting, because rather than sort of carefully trying to tell people where you're going to glue a tab, you can instead simply say, oh, stick that tab in that slot, and that's all there is to it.
That is very clever.
So now we're going to take this green piece, and I've got some up slot, down slot combos on either side.
Yeah, there, a little, you're kind of half, yeah, there you go. So tricky. That's cool.
And I thread those together on either side. So there's the first one threaded together. And then I just pulled it apart again. There we go. So it's someone who's reading something.
I love that little guy. He's reading a book. That's so great. And that is on the website. And the website is?
MakePopUpCards.com.
MakePopUpCards.com. I put it on the chat.
Oh, Steve and Carla. Hey, guys.
So there's that on the chat. Thank you so much, Shawn, for showing us that. How many pop-ups do you have on the website as of right now? How many pop-up things can people download for $1 and make?
All right, so this is the only $1 one. I think I have four, 1, 2, 3, 4 others. One of them is this flower, which is called a seashore mallow. It looks a lot like a hibiscus for all of you folks who know what those are. Seashore hibiscus grows along the eastern seaboard. This is what I'm going to do for my Mother's Day workshop on Mother's Day, which also exists as a printable project on that Make Pop-Up Cards website. I have a prickly pear cactus project on the makepopupcards.com website. Oh yeah, there's five, because then there are there's 4, there's 2 holiday projects. And both of the holiday projects, you get a candle to put inside of the pop-up. So there's a glowy skull for Halloween, and there's a glowy poinsettia for winter holidays.
Nice. Okay, that is fantastic. That's something for people who have kids at home who are looking for things to do that are hands-on. That's great.
Kids that are dexterous with a knife.
So yeah, older children. Thank you, Shawn, for being here. I appreciate it. Thank you, everyone else, for being here.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
Hello. I hope you enjoyed Evanston Bound with Shawn Sheehy. To learn more about Shawn's work, please visit his website at www.shawnsheehy.com. If you're interested in finding out more about Artist Bookhouse, please visit our website at artistbookhouse.org. And consider a donation. Click the Donate tab on our website. To view more Evanston Bound Quarant Tours, check out more of our videos here on YouTube. My name is Jamie Tomey. Thank you for being with us.